Yes, I can. Okay, so I've written all the perfect squares there. 4, 9, 16. I mean, yeah, I can see. I'm going to find the largest one of those perfect squares that is a factor of these numbers right here. So the numbers that are under the square root. So we want the largest number, which in this case, like for number 1, there's only one of them. So it's not, you don't have to figure out which one's the largest because there's only one. And then I think I heard the answer. So what is the only perfect square that will multiply evenly into 20? That is a factor of 20. It's 4, right? Okay. So make sure you guys are paying attention to where these numbers go, because I had a lot of, when people were starting to work on their paper, they didn't know where to put the numbers. So 4 stays under the square root. 5 stays under the square root. So 4 times 5 is 20. We have not changed this at all as far as the value for 4 or for the square root of 20. We have just simply split it apart into 2 factors. All right, and then I also put a little multiplication symbol in between to show you what's going on. And then, if you look, we've got, this is a perfect square. So, I want you guys to tell me, what is the square root of 4? 2. So none of you guys said the square root of 2, because you know that the square root of 4 is just 2. But I can't tell you how many times people make that into the square root of 2, and don't make that square root disappear. Okay? So make sure you do that. And that is your final answer. That's it. You did it. You're done. Okay? You can also use the factor tree method if you like, and I'll go through that one. So if you're comfortable with this one, you can split it up, and it doesn't necessarily have to be split up into 4 and 5. It can be split up into 10 and 2, and then the 10 can be split into 5 and 2. And then when you are trying to figure out, okay, well, then how is this simplified? Well, this is how I was taught. Act like this is a jail, all right? So your square root symbol is a jail. And this 5 and that 2 and that 2 are trying to get out of jail. So the only way you can get out of jail is to form a gang. And hello.
I have a phone for you.
Yay. Great. I'm not sure where it can plug in, but you can just put it here and I can plug it in. That would work. I don't know where I will want it eventually. Okay. So you've got to form a gang. The only way you can form a gang is if you look alike. There's 2 of these that look alike. Okay, so our 2s join up, form a gang. No. They join up and they form a gang. They storm the guard. And so, unfortunately, one of them dies. I seem really sad about it, I know. But then one of them gets out. So this 2 gets out, and so he's out of the square root. He's right there. This 5 cannot get out because he doesn't have a friend to help him get out. So he stays in jail. So you end up with 2 root 5. So you're going to end up with the same answer, obviously. But it's just however you want to answer it. Is your question math related?
Yes.
We'll see. What's your question? Okay, then never mind. All right. And that's how you solve it. So there's just a couple different ways. I prefer this one. I think it's faster, personally. Let's move on to number 2. So this one is kind of tricky because if you look at it and you think of the number 72 and you look at these perfect squares, in my mind, I'm like, oh, 9 and 8. Boom, we're done. Okay, because if I think of 72, I think of 9 times 8. But that's not actually the largest perfect square that goes into this. So your goal is to find the largest perfect square that is a factor of 72. So can anyone? Yes. 36. Perfect. Awesome. So 36 is the largest perfect square that goes into 72. And then how many times does that go into there? Twice, right? So that 2 is also under the square root as well. So we've got 36 and 2. And then your 36 simplifies to 6. It does not simplify to the square root of 6. Okay? Alright, so it's got to be the biggest perfect square, the largest perfect square. If you choose 9 and 8, it's not necessarily going to be wrong. You just aren't done. So I'll show you what would happen if you would choose. And you guys, you don't have to write this one down. You can if you'd like. But I just want to show you what happens if you choose 9 and 8. So you've got 9 and 8. They both multiply to equal 72. Okay, 9 simplifies. You got 3 root 8. And you think, I'm done, sweet. But you're not. It's wrong. Because can one of these perfect squares multiply into 8? Is that a factor of 8? Yeah, which one? 4. 4 can go into 8, right? Because 4 times 2 is 8. So you would have to do the whole process again and split this into 4 and 2. And then you would end up with 3 times 2 times root 2. And then you would get 6 root 2. So if you had to choose, which one would you rather do? The short one. I mean, I would, but I guess you do you. So just make sure that you're finding the largest perfect square that goes into this number. Okay. These right here, so number 3, it gets a little bigger. So, and when you're on this station, you'll have little calculators. The ones on this test that we're taking, which I'm going to give you a review, don't freak out, they're not going to be gigantic numbers like this. They're going to be much smaller. Do you understand how to simplify the smaller numbers? So we've got this 252. We want to find a perfect square that goes into it. But the issue is we want the biggest one. So we don't want to start at 4 and go up. Because in your mind, you're probably going to want to do that. We want to start at a large number and go down. So if I think about it, like 144, that's 12 squared. It's a little bit too big. Because if you multiply that by 2, it's going to be 288. So we can start maybe 121. The next one down. Oh, I should probably write divided by. But that does not come out to a whole number. So it's not a factor. Oh, 252. Yeah, that would be helpful if I put the right one in. Thank you, guys. So, it doesn't work. It obviously will not, it's not divisible by 100. What about 81? No. What about 64? No. 49, no. 36, oh, yes, that one works. Okay? So, since that one works, we've got to take 36 and 7. Those are our two numbers because 36 times 7 equals 252. Put your perfect square first. So, no. That's my, even if there was one, don't throw it away right now. Once I'm done, there will be time. Okay, so we've got 36 and 7. And then it simplifies to 6 over 7. So, make sure you put your perfect square first because it's just less confusing that way. Alright, I'm going to pause this. I want you to solve for this one. And then, if you simplify 64, you get 8. Make sure you do 8 outside the square root. There's no square root there. It is gone. So it's 8 square root 2. That's your final answer. Alright, moving on to number 5. So for number 5, we have root 3 over root 2. Anytime I get an email, that noise is going to go off. So, sorry. Oh, I probably shouldn't have put that. That kind of gives away what we're doing. Alright, lots of clicking, lots of talking back there. Isaac, to get that square root of 2 out of there. Multiply it. Multiply what? So we need to multiply it by square root of 2 on the bottom. But if we multiply that on the bottom, what must we also do on the top? The same thing. So are we multiplying by the square root of 2 on the top as well? we're not actually changing anything because the square root of 2 over square root of 2 is the same as 1, because that simplifies to 1. So we've got square root of 6 on the top. And notice what I did here. The 3 and the 2, they're both under the square root so they can multiply. If there was a number outside here, let's say there was a 3 out here, that 3 could not be touched. You just move it over. Alright, but since these are both under the square root, they can be multiplied. And then here, I'm going to write it like this because I think this has been confusing people. The square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 4. But what does the square root of 4 simplify to?
2.
Okay, so I'm just going to write it like this because too many people have gotten stuck on square root of 4 and left it there. So anytime you multiply the square root of the same thing, so square root of 2 times square root of 2, square root of 8 times square root of 8, the square root cancels out, and it just becomes that number. So I want you to think of it like that. Alright, and it becomes square root of 6 over 2. Okay, I've got a little bit of a challenge one, and I want you guys to try this one. Start it. And so it becomes just a 2 on the bottom, but then it's 3 times 2. And I saw about, I don't know, maybe 80% of you guys got to here and then got stuck. Alright, here's my suggestion. Act like this isn't here and then this is just a fraction, and you would just simplify that. So instead of 4 over 6, it would be 2 over 3. What's your question?
I was going to ask if it would be the 2 and the 10. Oh, yeah. You answered.
Yes, so the 2 and the 10 can't be combined at all, but they would just be sitting next to each other because it's 2 times square root of 10. Yes.